Hi guys, so I am here to do a video for my son's 4-month update. Today he went to the doctor and yeah, we'll get into that. Okay, so today was his 4-month doctor appointment and we went to his regular doctor. Everything was fine. He weighed 16 pounds and he was 24.5 inches long. So everything was fine. He meets all his milestones. He's babbling, talking, bringing things to his mouth, grasping things, holding his head up, pushing up, holding his upper body up. He sits up with assistance, all that good stuff. So the problem we had was that one of the girls, when they were measuring his head, they do the head, the abdomen, the chest, and then height and weight. They were saying that his head had grown, so we haven't been to the doctor in 2 months. They said that his head had grown 2 inches and that his head was outgrowing his body. But according to his past measurements, so I had to call back and get his past measurements to compare for myself and have to measure him myself, because they were telling me that I need to go to Eggleston here in Atlanta, that I need to go get a CT scan, MRI, all this stuff to make sure that nothing was going on with his head. They want to know, was he vomiting, running a fever, cross-eyed, and he hasn't had any of those things. So they were saying that his head was too big for his body, but when I looked at his head being charted on a growth chart or whatever, like a growth curve, his head was measuring for 4 months and 2.5 weeks. But as of today, which is October the 23rd, he is exactly 4 months and 1 day. 4 months and 1 week. So I'm like, why can't his head just be a little big? Why can't he just genetically have a big head? So they really scared me and was worrying me and telling me I really need to go there, that they had put the order in for him to have an MRI, x-rays, and I'm like, what about that radiation? Isn't that a lot on a little baby? So then the doctor goes, yeah, that's a lot of radiation, so I'm not sure, but you're telling me to go. I feel like, why don't we monitor the situation, and then if he comes back, because he doesn't go back again to December 23rd, 2 months from now. But I'm like, if you're concerned about something, why don't you have him come back in 2 weeks or come back in the next month and measure again? If you think that there's a problem or if something more could be going on. And he said that his head shape is normal. His soft spot looks fine. Everything is fine with his head. He just says that they would have said he had a growth spur if his height would have been more. But he hasn't been there in 2 months, so I'm not really understanding. So I'm going to go grab my notebook where I wrote down his past measurements and his measurements today. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, so these measurements are from August 20th. So first is his head. On August 20th, his head was 14 inches and 3/4. As of today, his head is 17 inches. So that is 2 inches and 1/4 increase. His chest, which I'm starting out with August 20th, was 14. Today it's 17.5. That's 3.5 increase. His abdomen on the 20th of August was 15.5 inches. His abdomen today is 17 and 25, so I guess that's 17.5. 17.5, no, 17.1/4, tripping, 17.1/4. So, that's about 2 inches. And then his height is 22. That was on August 20th, and his height today is 24.5 inches. And his weight then, on August 20th, was 10 pounds, 10.6 pounds. And then his weight today is 16, which is an increase of 5.4 pounds. So to me, the thing with the smallest increase is his head. So I don't understand how you could say his head is bigger than his body when, according to the measurements, the smallest thing on his body is his head. So shouldn't his head be too small for his body? If his head is 17, his chest is 17.5, His abdomen is 17 1/4, and his height is 24 inches and a half, and then his weight is 16 pounds. So shouldn't his head be the smallest thing? His head isn't growing as fast as his body. But they were telling me that his head was too big for his body, pretty much. Like, they didn't understand how his head could grow 2 inches in 2 months. But they told me then that his height was like 21, 22 something. And then when I got home, we measured him, and I'm like, I know he has to be 24 inches because that was my guess. I see him every day, dressing him, undressing him, bathing him, and I know my son. And sure enough, he was 24 inches. And then when I called back to get the measurements written down for myself so I could compare, they were like, oh yeah, he's 24 and a half. So why are you scaring me? Like, something could be wrong with my child. He's meeting all the milestones. He's a growing baby boy. So, and I'm not taking him to get CAT scans and MRIs just because you think something's wrong and it's not. Like, I don't feel comfortable exposing him to, you know, radiation and those types of things like that. I don't feel comfortable with that. I mean, it would be different if his head wasn't growing or it was too big and then he can't hold his head up, he's not rolling over, you know, if he was having difficulties with those type of things. But he's perfectly on track and a little ahead of certain things that he should be doing. So I wasn't quite understanding, and I had to look at the measurements for myself and write everything down. So what we've decided for this 4-month update is that what I'm probably going to do is just look for another doctor and get a second opinion before I take him there to get any x-rays or anything else. So I just want to say thanks for watching this 4-month update, and what I'm going to do with this issue is I'm going to leave it here, and then when I go to another doctor for another opinion, then I will tell you what that opinion is and whether or not we're going to go on with the MRI and CAT scan and all that, because it was just like, they were like, oh, you just might have a naturally big head. His head shape is fine. His head felt fine. He didn't have any ridges or dips or anything in his head. He was perfectly normal, perfectly fine. But now you're telling me to, you know, just go on and get that done and whatever. But it seems like a lot of radiation for a baby, but just go on and get that done just because we want to be sure. Well, I don't see anything that makes you unsure, you know. Like, I don't see anything that's throwing up any red flags. He's not vomiting. He's not cross-eyed. He doesn't have fever. He's hitting all his milestones. And even when the doctor was checking him out, he didn't even cry. Like, he started to whine when they were checking his ears. But, I mean, he laughed at the doctor when the doctor talked. If you look at him and smile, he smiles back. He babbles. He spits. He boos. Coos. I mean, he does all the typical baby things, opens and closes his hands, looks at his hands, rolls over, can sit up. He can sit up assisted if I sit him up, but I can sit him up and slide from underneath him, and for a couple seconds he'll just sit there. So yeah, just this whole day today, it's just rubbed me the wrong way. So I'm just thinking about it, sleeping on it, praying to God about it, and then coming up with a solution. And another thing I did not like is that I passed up on his shots again. So the only shot that he has had so far is hepatitis B. And they were like, oh, he's going to be really, really behind. And I was like, okay, well, I'll plan on getting him, not all of his shots, but starting with most of his shots at his 6-month appointment, which is December 23rd with this particular doctor. But they were like, well, we just want you to know that if he ever gets sick, you cannot come in this doctor's office. You cannot wait in our waiting room. You have to sit outside until you're called. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. You know, it's just like, you're not going to push me into doing something that I don't feel comfortable with, you know. So I don't know about this doctor. The doctor that he goes to is a doctor that I went to as a child. And I just think that the man that's a doctor now, he's just gotten too old to do the stuff himself. And it's just, you know, every time I go there, then the last time I went, they tried to say that there was something wrong with this area down there, that they saw like a lump or something. And then when the doctor checked, he was like, it's nothing. I don't see what you're talking about. So every time we've been there, it's always something. And then, like, even when he was born, they said he measured 17 3/4 inches long. But the next week when we went to the doctor, he was already 19 inches. So how did he grow almost 2 inches in a week? So I don't know if they're measuring him properly or what they're doing, but it's just been very, I'm not going to say stressful, but it's just been very irritating and just annoying, honestly, that, you know, you think you're going to the doctor's office, you think everything's okay, and then they make it seem like something is seriously wrong with your child, but then in further conversation, then they're like, I don't know, but we want you to go, you know, expose your son to x-rays and radiations, and I just don't feel comfortable with that. So yeah, and then they don't even have, in my opinion, enough, you know, just enough evidence or whatever to think that something's wrong. So I'm like, oh, shouldn't we just monitor the situation rather than you just sending me to take him there just because I guess you think we have nothing else to do with our time. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for an update on this topic and see how everything goes on with my baby's head. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye bye.